Hello, in this tutorial we will continue with the use of logical function. In the previous video on logical function, I explained you some basic logical functions like AND, NOT, and direct comparison. In this tutorial, we'll be focusing on some other important logical functions. And I'll keep the example same as the previous tutorial. So here I have got some regional sales data for different regions and the quarterly figures of those sales data. And we already discussed about the direct comparison and or not. And in this video, I'll explain you about if error, if, switch, true, and false function. So let's move on to if error. If error function, basically what it does is you give it two values or two parameters, and then it will do the first parameter. It will do the operation on the first parameter, and if that parameter or expression results in some values, then it will return that value. If that expression results in some error, then it will ignore that result, and instead it will use the second value as an answer. So let's type in equal to, and then you say if error, and I select if error. So now, as I said, you need two parameters here, the value and value if error. So it will give you value as answer, and if value is error, then it will give value if error as the answer. So you need to specify both of them. So let's say I want to find out the sum of the total sales data for all the regions, for all the quarters. So I just sum, and I select the entire range from C5 to F8. So my first expression or my value is sum C5 to F8. Whatever is the total, that is the value. Next, I need to specify what it should return if my first value happens to be an error. So I say, oops, something went wrong. So it will say, oops, something went wrong if my first expression is an error. So I now press enter, and the if error function is returning me 2564, which is the total sales data of all the quarters for all the region, which you can see here as well, 2564. Now let's say if I was doing some weird calculation here, let's say if I divide this total sales value by 0, which I should not, but just to explain you how this function works. Now I'm sure I'll get an error here, and in that case it should return, oops, something went wrong, because that is what is the second value or value if error. So I press enter. Now what I get is, oops, something went wrong, and the reason is because I'm doing something which doesn't make sense. And you can also see this in action by clicking on the evaluate formula. So you just go to the cell where you want to evaluate something, and on the formula tab under the formula editing section you have this evaluate formula. So you click there, and it's now evaluating the entire function. So it's evaluating sum C5 to F8. So I just press evaluate. So it found C5 2564, and now it's dividing it by 0, and then it will try to find the answer. Now that returns a divisional error here. So now it will ignore that, and it will use the second option, and that's what you get as the answer. So that's how if error function works. Now moving on to the next one. Next one I'm going to explain you about if function in brief. Now if is the most important function according to me in Microsoft Excel, and if you are doing any financial modeling work, I'm sure you will not survive without this function. It is so important. In fact, I'm going to devote one full video only on this if function. In brief, if function is like saying if something is true, then do something, otherwise do something else. So you need to specify three things. First, your condition. Second, what it should do if that condition is met. And third, what it should do if the condition is not met. So let's type in if, now the logical test, which is the condition, and I'm saying give me the total sales value of quarter 2 if quarter 2 value is greater than quarter 1 value. That is what I want. So the logical test would be, if Q2 values, or D9, which is the total sales value of quarter 2, if D9 is greater than Q1, which is C9. So C9 has the value of total sales value for quarter 1. So I'm saying my logical test is, if D9 is greater than C9, if that is correct, then it will return me the value if true. And the value if true I want is, if D9 is greater than C9, then give me the value of D9, else, I put a comma, else give me the value of C9, which is value if false. And I close the bracket, and it gives me 672. That is because I'm comparing the value of D9 versus C9, and I said, if D9 is greater than C9, then give me the value of D9, otherwise give me the value of C9. Since C9 is greater than D9, it is giving me the value of C9. So that's how if function works. Next, I'll show you the use of switch function. Switch function is like, you need to specify you can put multiple parameters within this function, and what it basically does, it checks the first expression in the switch function with respect to several values that you specify, and whichever value is matching with the first expression, then it returns the corresponding result. So basically you need to specify your first expression, and then you are basically checking that expression with several values in the list, and corresponding to each values you also specify the results, and for whichever values the expression is matching, it gives you the corresponding result. So you say equal to, let's say I want, first let me write the function switch. So switch, it evaluates an expression against a list of values and returns the result corresponding to the first matching value. So I select this function. Now the first parameter is the expression. Now I am trying to evaluate the value in cell C12, and I'm saying switch C12, which means it's trying to now match the value in this cell C12 with other values, which I'm going to specify now as value 1. My value 1 is, I'm saying if Q3 equals to Q1. So that's my first value, and the result would be, if whatever is inside this cell here, if that corresponds to this one, then I want it to return, just tell me that it is quarter 1. Else, if the value in this cell C12, if that matches with the value in D4, then I want it to return, or say quarter 2. Else, if the value in the cell C12, if that matches with the value in cell E4, then I want to say it quarter 4. So that's the result. And if it doesn't matches with any of these three, if this parameter, the first expression C12, if this value, whatever is here, if it doesn't match with any of these three, then I want it to simply say fourth quarter, or quarter 4, and I close the bracket. So now this is my expression. C12 is the expression. The first value it will try to match is with C4. If it is same as C4, then it will give me the answer as this expression here. That's my result 1. Otherwise, it will move to the next value, which is D4, as you can see here. And if it matches with D4, then it will give me the result, which is here. If it doesn't match with D4, then it will move to the E4, which is in value 3 here, and the corresponding result is Q quarter 4. Sorry, I should have said that as quarter 3. Quarter 3. And if it doesn't match with any of those cells, then it will return quarter 4. So let's see what we get as the answer. So it is saying Q3. So because this Q3 corresponds to Q3 here, and for Q3 I have specified to return answer as quarter 3. Actually, it's much better if I just evaluate it, and you can see how it has performed that result. So the switch C12, the value is Q3. Now the Q3, it will try to match with any of the specified values. So Q3, then it goes to Q1, then it goes, so Q3 doesn't match with Q1, then it checks with the D4, which is Q2, so it doesn't match with Q2, then it goes to check E4, which is Q3, so it has found Q3, and then because it has found this Q3 matching with this Q3 here, it will then return me the corresponding result, which is Q quarter 3. So that's how switch function works. Basically, you are evaluating a given expression against multiple values, and you also specify multiple corresponding results. So for whichever values it matches, it gives you the corresponding result. Here, I was trying to match Q3 with any one of them, and against those values, I had put, for Q1 I wanted quarter 1, for Q2 I wanted quarter 2, for Q3 I wanted quarter 3, and that is what it has returned. So this Q3 corresponds to this Q3 here, and hence the result quarter 3. Next, there's a true function and a false function. Now these are just like writing true. If you write true, this will return true, and if you write false, this will just return false. These are like binary operations, either 0 or 1. Now sometime in modeling, you may be required to use certain expressions in certain situation. So it's self-explanatory. You just write true, and the answer you get is true. You write false, and the answer you get is false. So these are some of the most common used logical functions which you will be using on day-to-day basis if you are involved in financial modeling, or even in some data analysis or financial analysis.